right, we are live. Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Millett, the one. And this is the quarantine stream, the 47th one. We hope you enjoy the opening acts. Wow, beautiful, and stickers. And it appears as if we are facing Facebook censorship for some reason. Apparently, the image of Wow Beautiful showing two Native Americans in 1971 doing what is known as the Eagle Dance. Apparently, that photo with the ambiguous content of Wow Beautiful was enough to trigger censorship. So that's beautiful. Thank you guys. Oh my god. I meant okay. No, it's not a white supremacist symbol, I promise. Anyway, let us hear the ever beautiful, ever green, ever wonderful, ever gorgeous quarantine stream theme now, shall we? Beautiful. So stupid. I could have died that was being marked as sensitive content. There's nothing sensitive about it. Ugh, what a stupid, stupid world we live in, where that's deemed sensitive. I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure that it isn't. So I objected to it. So we'll see. That is just insane. Maybe they objected to the photo from the poster, but again, that's a photo taken by Ouija, the great photographer from like the 1940s. It's been in a million different books and art exhibits. If that's sensitive, then I don't know what to say. That's literally the dumbest thing. That is just shockingly stupid and shockingly disappointing. So, unbelievable. Good job, guys. Good job. Imagine if I did something that was actually offensive. Unbelievable. Well, we'll do Dance the Night Away. This is our opener. A blue wave sprayed gently onto the window. It remained an unfaded crescent reaching over the rooftop. Birds flew through untethered. Droplets yawned in sonorous applause. The shapes succumbed, giving way by matching passing movements. As when water splashes in the sky, a maypole stands unraveled while a sunfish kisses a butterfly. The fences were then a canvas, soaked tissue paper sprung over electrical wires, fragile forktails freshly shaven, as bronze tiger beetles glanced up at the heavens. Dance the night away! So sensitive content because of maybe a photo that has been published a bajillion times since the 40s, and maybe a photo of Native Americans doing a native dance. That's it. That's all it takes. That is pretty shocking and hilarious. So speaking of Facebook, I got a thing today asking from the Special Olympics, asking to sign an online pledge to ban the word retard and to never use the word retard. And I guess, it doesn't surprise me that people with diminished faculties would want to do something as repressive, oppressive, and ridiculous as censor language and limit people's language, and excise words from the lexicon that they don't like. So yeah, you would have to be a fucking retard to think that. Bring it on. And the whole thing that's sad about it is, it's you do these things for the purpose of beauty and exploration and curiosity and expression and throwing different ideas around, and when it's something that innocuous, it really flies in the face of anything that's intelligent. When it's something that, I mean, I could see if it was some wild shit, and I'm sure that you could do some pretty wild shit, but and that was inoffensive and tame. So I got flagged by I got sent to Facebook prison once because I posted a photo of John and Yoko from the photo shoot that birthed the Two Virgins album cover. So they objected to Yoko's nipples. If you're stupid enough to object to Yoko Ono's nipples, I don't know what to say to you. There's nothing. I'll go on record and say that there's nothing offensive about Yoko Ono's nipples. So I think that that's something. I would hope that that's something that all Americans, everyone around the world, we could all hold hands and agree on. This is called "Sympathy for the Cowboy." Sympathy for the cowboy, all alone on the range. After the war ended, he was forced to change his name. Sympathy for the cowboy, holding his dying brother, who begged with his last breath, "Tell mother I died with honor." Sympathy for the meth lab and all who fight in harm's way, who hope to abolish minimum wage and charge only $15 a day. Sympathy for modern times and those who argue they're right. Sympathy for the victim who already has all the laws on their side. Sympathy for the student who's only lived in theory in a hammer and sickle t-shirt, walking away from the barricade. Sympathy for the lawsuit and all who fought for reform. Sympathy for the bumper sticker telling you to be reborn. Sympathy for the stallion running free and too wild to ride. Sympathy for the motherfucker who tried. His wife cried, "It was his foolish pride." Sympathy for the strawberry and the trial separations, press releases pleading for privacy, and, of course, doing it for the kids. Sympathy for the nihilist, sucking on his cigarette, cutting you off in traffic, no constraints of guilt or regret. Sympathy for the stalker, on his computer outside, looking at pictures of you in high school, saving each one even if it takes him all night. Sympathy for the cowboy, whose son moved off the ranch, said he might be coming back soon, if there's no change of plans. How are we doing out there? Doing okay? Good. Unbelievable. What a world we live in. Anyway, this is called The Ballad of Jenny. She called up from a party after drinking all night. She said that she'd been raped, but that she liked the sensation. The listener concluded that she is a rape and went back to bed. She called back the next morning, but the machine picked it up. She was glad, though, because she didn't like talking to humans anyway. This is called May. Get it together, get it yourself. The feelings you had linger for months. Under the ground, garden life albatross, she bleeds all over me. I say ball and chain in simple words. Idealization, affiliation, detoxification, menstruation. Dirt in the coffin, she's bleeding on the flower stems. Up in the air, salivating tissue. Under the ground, dirt on the nails, bleeding again. Extend a hand in loving help, but maybe you should just kill yourself. We'll see if that, is a problem. Unbelievable. Here's a good one. This is from a book I did a couple years ago. This is called Diamond Mine. Water rushing so fast it looks like knotted wood. Its sound a ceaseless, perpetual crash in static blue and black. Droplets burst over the plank's sides and dot the dirt or land on kicked-out bricks, and from the ravine's opposite angle, the water seems to glide clockwise, rolling ever nearer toward the gears. And into the factory, where 7 years previous the core of the industry sunk unexpectedly early, and like a defense attorney, the treasurer ruled the materials used were archaic and their methods unrealistic. And as demand seized up, the foreman and night shift technicians acidly joked they were laboring within the Great Repression. For ages it seemed like the beams from the afternoon sun wouldn't come, but we later learned the view was obscured from a flood that started in the diamond mine. We know. It's either tacitly implied or we're told outright. You can't be seen like that. You need lights. When money is exchanged and you're finally responsible and realistic, you can't be seen like that. You need lights. Know the value of being articulate and reconsider your obscure subject. You need to stay in the lines. You need to revise. Realize the need to eliminate images that would be unwise to present or ideas you'd be unable to defend. Why persist if honest people cannot implicitly understand? You can't be seen like that. You need lights. For years it seemed like the beams from the afternoon sun wouldn't come, but we later learned the view was obscured from a flood that started in the diamond mine. Back in the head office on the desk, next to the coffee, scissors, and gold pen set, was a black leather envelope in that morning's newspaper whose sub-headline read, "Forget Forgetfulness," and detailed a local photographer who makes elaborate, enormous, near-twin gelatin prints of events, one real, one staged, and described the effect as painting over paintings. When asked by the reporter who will get this, the photographer remarked, "Anyone who misses being pure or ever imagined placing one point in time over another. Anyone who pictures the shape of ideas and not the shape of their mind. Anyone who sees a crowd and tries to find the people in disguise." Later, the paper lay open to the crossword puzzle, and among answers written in indeterminate script were asides like, "Does purpose follow appearance? Where is this from? Reasons better than because." And finally, determining what to become. How are we doing out there? This is called Investigating Mitsy. She rides around the merry-go-round wearing satin slippers, chewing pink peppercorns. Her eyes are a miracle in the way they paint names in the minds of rain clouds. The lightning reaches out to introduce itself. The Queen of Atlantis draws filigree for the king while he's taking his bath. Bristling lips kiss the teeth of the key ring and lick ankles and mouth. She holds a bouquet of clarinets, wearing a lavender herringbone robe and nodding at buckets of soap. Her elbows hold her weight on the sand dune decorated with still-wet seashells and teacups half filled with a treacle she pours onto tree roots. The Queen of Atlantis plans where the French and English will meet. The king eats suckling pig and excites the court over soaking his feet. And the sad thing is there are people that would applaud such measures. People who, quote unquote, support the arts, or are the modern gatekeepers, quote unquote. But they don't have anything to do with what I do. They never will. And they never have. This is called Cruelty for Heroin. This is about the mosquitoes that land on things and suck and suck and suck and suck and suck until there's nothing left in them. And then they fly to their next host and land on that. And they wonder, I can't imagine why everything that I land on keeps dying. When the Guardian goes mad, the sun rains against their eardrums, indistinguishable from Morse code tapping out on a copper plate. Yes, when the Guardian has gone mad, they're found singing love songs to tanks, draping staircases in flags, breaking car windows to decorate their faces with the glass. When the Guardian goes mad, they're captured pushing a pickaxe into an LED screen and detained for threatening to throw snakes at gas station attendants. When the Guardian goes mad, people suddenly remember to turn on AM radio and patiently follow guidelines before filing a full report. Though there are always doubters and passers-by who start conspiracies, the usual being that this was some sort of planned distraction, and since they own the technology, they can do whatever they want, and you are their rightful victim. You are their stooge, their stool pigeon, and sit there and feel hot shame burn your cheeks as their whims dictate whatever you say. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll arrive at every awards ceremony with a mirror in hand and a ribbon under their chin and make demands to review the voting processes when they don't win. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll rue the day they lost control of their relationships, spending weeks hiring staff to bury paperwork they'll insist doesn't exist. If the Guardian goes mad, all their meals shall consist of orange peels pulled from chain-link fences and burned coffee flavored with molded peach preserves. Though there are always doubters ready to offer an opinion of unverifiable proof, summarizing the death and maps are the only real measures of impact. And can you imagine being that fucking sick? If the Guardian cracks up, they'll spend bleak days envisioning trees committing suicide, grandmothers doing crystal meth for the first time, and gnats smeared into toothpaste. If the Guardian cracks up, 7 strangers stuck in a bank will claw at each other to seek cold air in the vault and wait for their families and firemen to arrive and dig them out. If the Guardian cracks up, pirates will walk their own planks and devour themselves once they hit the water, thrashing back at their gnashing teeth, running the seas red until hunter and prey are finally won. Innocence, arrogance. The pest control man said unto me, when I was in Japan, I bought cherry bread in a can. I opened it with a knife and slid off the wrapper. The air bubbles stayed floating around in my mouth, and I rolled them around and around and around and around until I returned back to the West. Bliss, tolerance? The pest control man said unto me, sometimes my apartment building turns into a vending machine, and I could deposit it out into the evening to provide goods and services for lucky couples with good taste and a few wandering dollars to rub together. This is, well, we're going to do a different one for a second. This is a parallel place. I live in a parallel place where the land is level, where the streets are bright in the evenings, and I know what tomorrow brings. I live in a parallel place where the wind is cold, where gray-haired men sweep the bandshell and foxes sleep under church bells. I hear the lank-haired women walking in the morning, their faces shaped by the sun. I live in a parallel place where there's endless electricity with very low voltage, where everyone dies of old age. I live in a parallel place where rain runs into a tunnel, where able-bodied women clear the gutters and dragonflies rise in a slow-motion flutter. I see all the able-bodied men hauling fallen branches, their faces shaded by the sun. I live in a parallel place where people speak in peace, where the foreman's spouse greets the mailman in a see-through blouse. I live in a parallel place where the forest faces east, where contracts are written in invisible ink, and codes are created with a wink. I see all the people breathing through the day, their faces graced by the sun. Blissful cardinals, blissful infants, blue reflections magnified 10,000 times, blue beams bouncing off aged lenses, radiant artifacts, radiant heirlooms, white sails blistered by the salty sun, white china stacked up in cupboards, shining domes, shining necklaces, green feelings balanced on a yardstick, green parchment weighted down by grapes. How are we doing out there? Any requests? This is called Fawn, now more than ever. Two brothers named Canary were said to have stolen from the community chest. They didn't have the decency to steal from the wealthy, take what they need, and give away the rest. But the law couldn't be trusted, and thus were never called, so the Canaries were chastised and marched to the town walls. The locals hoped word would travel down the wire, and that they'd be denied food, lodgings, and water wherever they retired. But quickly enough, the Canaries were forgotten and continued to ride along freely without judgment or punishment, and if they committed any further acts of thievery, it was never noted publicly. Griffith, resplendent in a natty navy suit, steals Jessica's champagne in a wrong-headed attempt to give it back later as a gift, thinking she'll appreciate it more. Jessica, powerful yet delicate in a mellow peppermint pencil dress, rubs the bristle of Griffith's temples into his sweat and wonders how many texts he'll have to hide from her next. Griffith says he can break skin without bleeding. He dyes water blue before he drinks. He memorizes reviews, then skips to the end of the book that he reads. Jessica can get arrested and go straight home and spend the rest of her week yelling at strangers on the street and snapping reaction shots of the backs of their heads. Griffith is flummoxed as he's photographed exiting his favorite bar in the early morning, his mother's birthday on his mind and a lone cigarette tucked behind his right ear. While Jessica is photographed ironically flashing a peace sign on the beach, her mother's week-long visit thankfully now over. Griffith explains to his extended family the nature of his many public feuds, and why they will persist, and bats away a leading question by their lawyer, disregarding being disproven by facts, feeling justified in thinking that the best way to reconcile a discrepancy is to attack, or, as might have been dreamt up in a different way, they made fun of his family name, they insulted his family name, they made fun of his family name, an insult to the family name. Jessica explains to the management at her company that discounting what could be considered her offensive language, the inherent truth of her statement still stood, though she was struck speechless when asked if she thought if only her supporters were aware of her content. According to her informants, a known opponent, unaware she was being recorded, made a remark, the weight of which contradicted her previously stated public stance. Pablo floats in the ectoplasm. A washed and the oils marked for his portrait. The prize fish! Fawn's teeth snap on water when her magnetic coiled alertness goes unrewarded. Satsuki states her ideas for posterity. The problem that I see is that they assume everyone who agrees with them about one thing agrees with them about everything. The problem that I see is that it's another version of corporate thinking, another way of being right-wing. The problem that I see is that they assume that I will be a standard bearer. The problem that I see is that they are only willing to write their words in chalk. The problem that I see is that they limit me to things I have no control over. The problem that I see is that their personal truth has no dialogue with honesty. Satsuki states ideas she would later likely delete. I'll never be able to stop forcing emotions from myself. I'll never be able to be an eggshell. I'll never be able to be a pierced genital. I'll never be able to convince people. I saunter past the bar and the JPEGs of 2003 like it means anything. I step over the bar and resurfaced insisting that sounds like a rhinestone. I ignore the bar and the people whose minds comprise the seventh circle. I shake my head at the bar, hoping to get money from acquaintances for friendship services. Satsuki notes things she's overheard. I try and fail and cannot help but hate the people who stay past closing and get distracted where there's a webcam on the wall, hoping no one saw you picking pepper out of your teeth, while thinking, oh, it's like modern art, and this is being seen somewhere, and I'm the subject in this moment, this ultimate moment. Take a drink. The gaze. Take a drink. It's empowering. I wonder if I know them. Old movies to me are like Dream a Little Dream. I wouldn't watch anything older because I'd be bored and I wouldn't even know what they were talking about. How are we doing out there? This is Lazy Angels, and it is dedicated to Jennifer, and congratulations, Jennifer, on getting the hell out. Squat woman sealed in a shadow frock, trimmed in white, absence of light, selling stories from her garden that she demands are heard, but is greeted with the silence of the crowd's indifference. She doesn't already know that we can breathe and we can leave. She can't see that we already can walk through doors and open windows. Counterfeit prophet steals the locks. Illegal son, 0 as 1, selling pictures of her dinner her guards are obliged to buy, even as her art collection is vanishing until the walls have nothing left hanging. She doesn't already understand that we can perceive and that we can receive. She can't see that we can paint flowers with any colors that we can imagine, and we can imagine all of them. Their far and distant minds are trails best left behind. Sister to her father stops the drain under a rotting stage, 6-month wage, selling reports carefully whispered in hopes her wealthy relatives will let her sign their wills first. She doesn't already know that we are her, twice as much or more, a complete verse. She can't see the red and gold bird flying right above. She can't see that we are her, twice as much or more. She can't see that she hands her keys to a steed who gallops away into the orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills, orange rolling hills, orange rolling hills, Ragnarok and Islay, Ragnarok and Islay, Ragnarok and Islay, on rolling hills, on rolling hills. This is called Sacrifice the Satellite. Moments before dawn, phone ringing, unable to suss if it was happening from impressions born in shallow sleep while lights flicked on in neighbors' windows. Or as the drift ceased to be back in, we were gun runners trapped in a house, detained by police, threatened by rivals, but I was able to slither out a side door and snuck away to a cafe where I was supposed to summon assistance, but instead decided, the hell with them. I was called to a room. The walls of the hallway were blue, and when I entered, there they sat, looking exactly as they did in 1984. When one spoke, there was no sound from their mouths, but the words synced loudly in my skull. Crushed flowers float downstream in the rainwater, and handmade smokestacks drip steam on half-awake blades of grass. New nuns count the gray hairs of their predecessors as they scan old photographs. Will they question who's alive in heaven? Are their words papering a mountain? They will have a moment where they behold the beauty of an empty screen or unplowed, snow-covered street, lost in a world between are the souls who only dream when looking up. Thick, shimmering splotches of gray grease liquefy and start to drip down rust-colored walls of skins, watched by a babe with a flashbulb embedded in their wrist, who sits on gouged black and gold tiles in the center of a disused ballroom dance floor among carelessly flung piles of metal prong monitors, cords, discs, spilled coffee grounds, broken vodka bottles, and asymmetrical platinum wigs. Every year there's a whisper the inventory will get a clean transfer. Winston Dubois knew the recovered money was wrapped in a mosquito net and secured in the back of a carriage. The horse stopped in front of an Air Force base, which got inadvertently captured on videotape, with the footage dissected by theorists for decades. Desmond Hampton learned Tony Chamberlain had double-crossed him as he drank milk and clapped erasers together outside his classroom. His signature had been forged and hidden throughout the system. The younger best brother thinks, if only I were a CEO buying companies whose names I don't know and could leverage my credibility to simultaneously flaunt my status and champion myself as an obscurity. We see this all the time, don't we? The older best brother thinks, if only I were an oligarch and had a tapestry of machinery to do what I want, live in seclusion, invest in rare art, and pay for a hooker who looks like my daughter. Lost in a world between are the souls who only dream when looking up. The beams of starshine light land everywhere and leave valley-wide fingerprints for 7 years. Minute glass tubes can shiver without bursting, squidding on glistening diamonds laid out on linens, spirals scrawled on maps with the location leading inside a puzzle box, while fungus slides up to a microscope and mixes with vinegar and bleach. Circles of sapphires line the linoleum tile with a surface so improbably clear it mimics a screen. Lost in a world between are the souls who only dream when looking up. This is called Everyone. Excuse me. Too late in the evening, 7:45. That man around the corner lost his ring in a fight. Here comes St. Thomas walking through the door, found himself an auction, bought everything on the floor. I don't wake up too early. I don't cut my face. I don't call any strangers. I don't go looking for their graves. Everyone gets half of what they want and half of what they don't. Half of what they couldn't and half of what they won't. Pork chops in the kitchen, above the sink there's a light. No milk on the table for the blink of an eye. Up the road is a driveway where they come out paid. Yeah, they come out smiling, dead cats in their way. Everyone gets half of what they want and half of what they don't. Half of what they couldn't and half of what they won't. This is called Windy Sequins. Through the missing bricks, you can see a banquet table with a candelabra crooked from water-falling wax. On the other side of the missing bricks is a tablecloth with faintly gray claw stains left by mourning doves. Through the missing bricks there is a banquet table, heaving with indentations from apples, persimmons, cantaloupes, and pears. On the other side of the missing bricks there is a deer walking in the distance while a finger painting floats to the ground. Through the missing bricks there is a banquet table, with unopened telegrams and sturdy silver trays stacked with books about the Enlightenment. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a pebble garden placed on a tree branch next to a mortar and pestle. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table, lined along the bottom right edge with bowls of cold dandelion soup. Seated 45 degrees away from the banquet table is a man with a salt and pepper waxed mustache humming waltzes and complaining about the distortions of sounds and colors. 110 years old, and he doesn't know that electric blue can be beautiful too. All right, this is the big boy of the night. This is wrote this many years ago. Read it many times. It's up 1997 from my book Political Glitter. It has a bad word in it. If you are offended by words, this is clearly not the fucking place for you. But also, you need to take a moment and understand that things are written in character. They're written that way for a reason. They're written to depict something, to get a larger point across. And usage of a word does not mean condoning the word. And hopefully, you are not a stupid baby and you understand that. But if you are a stupid baby, you would need that explained to you. And it's unfortunate that we have, at a time like this, coming off the presidency that we just had, that we have so many stupid babies. The stupid baby that got voted out should never have been voted in. And it's because of a lot of other stupid babies all across the country that, that sort of thing is allowed to happen. So anyway, this cuts through all of that like a fucking knife, like a clean, sharp, fucking precise razor that knows what it needs to do. It's surgical and beautiful, and it will bring about healing. So don't focus on the razor. Focus on the fucking healing. This is called I Never Run Out of Money. He got in the car just to drive away, and it was 80s night on the radio, and he felt his eyelids quiver from the thoughts left behind them. He always wanted to go out with one of the older kids, and he sped past her house to remind himself that the whole thing hadn't been fiction. He had to chew on tablets of ephedrine just to stay awake. As it careened down a one-lane town, the clock read 2:14 a.m. Name another place where you don't have to worry about the cum on your coat from the guy on back of you on the bus, or the weekend in Boys Town where you lost all your money, where you can die for the 50 stars and still get reborn, where you can vomit on someone else's tonsils and still go home with them for the night. And you know that when you got a dime bag in your lap and you could drive the service entrance to paradise, it's not a privilege, it's a birthright. He was always fascinated by the kids who looked a few years older, who looked coked up by the time they were 13. The news came from Washington. He had a fantasy that he kept kissing her on the forehead. Oliver North had been acquitted and Fawn Hall wasn't to blame, just like when they arrested Manuel Noriega because he wouldn't pay cash for the shipping costs of all his cocaine. He pulled into Super K for some Coca-Cola and saluted the limp American flag on the way in. Rolling Stone had Bruce Springsteen on the cover, and he felt like he had razor blades inside his stomach. Somehow everyone felt let down by the Gulf War. It wasn't as bloody as My Lai. It wasn't as funny as Grenada. And gooks weren't bombed in the process. The commodities and golden parachutes kept all the middle management well liquored up by the time the first Bush was giving his resignation speech. Voodoo economics and the crack epidemic sometimes made you wish that Nixon had been right all along. But this never seemed to bother him, and the national debt never meant shit to any decent citizens, especially not the kids who saw Heathers when it was still in the theaters. He got off the phone with one of his friends who complained that crack smoking was just a quote-unquote cheap ghetto high, and he thought, one drug is as good as the other. It doesn't fucking matter what neighborhood you bought it in, motherfucker, dipshit. The erythromycin was fucking up his liver, but at least it kept the acne off. He read a book about Charles Manson and figured the only difference between him and Nixon was a few years in jail and a copy of the White Album. But still, the thought of Squeaky and Sadie, dressed up in their black capes, creepy crawling into someone's couch, was still freaky enough to keep him sleeping out on the couch. That night, he had a horrible dream. Eric Estrada was hosting a beauty pageant at the Playboy Mansion featuring categories like worst facelift and most fucked up tit job, but he couldn't walk away from the spectacle of it all. All he could do was to slug down a bottle of Thunderbird and cradle a hard-on while slobbering, "I do believe I'm ready for the Playboy Mansion! I want to see Hef! Open up those goddamn gates!"
He woke up before the former First Lady wet t-shirt contest and ran to his car in horror. He flicked on the ignition, forced in a homemade tape, and while Naughty Girls Need Love 2 leaked out, he thought about how much he hated those old political arguments that he heard, that individuals are symptomatic of a sicker society. He came upon Super K, the great beacon for people who are lonely and cheap, and admired its neon beauty against the black backdropped sky. He was looking sideways and feeling sick about what was smothering up the rest of the land. Strip mall upon strip mall, grids and rows of anonymous stores. He thought about how all this used to be a beautiful forest and how disgusting it was that every developer was using their own lunch hooks to get a portion of the profits. He felt his stomach muscles tighten from the thought of another obese teen selling Swatch watches and sunglasses. But then he turned his head forward, away from the strip mall, and saw nothing but outstretched lanes of tree branches and unpainted roads, and he knew that he was finally getting ready to go home. How are we doing out there? This is called Should I Go In? Actually, I want to check on something. I'm a curious fellow today. I don't want to keep chiming for free, you know what I'm saying? I just like to check on things. The silver peppermill whispers to the hammer that she's an airport. And though she never really shows anybody, I still know for a fact that she is an airport. If you stop at her coffee shop, she'll charge you extra for a plastic top. The well-water ice cubes have heard this tale told to them before, but she's an airport. A zebra's chewing gum can confirm the reports that she's an airport. If you take off your shoes after the security stop, she'll throw them in the air and they'll land in the baggage car. Run down the runway to the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story you'll want to pass along someday. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story you'll want to pass along someday. She's an airport and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective bubbles. She's an airport and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective balls. Every color candy. If I could implicate, if I could talk to you, I will, Samoran, just like in today's world of opinion and denunciation and admirable like in pictures and friendliness and outward inliness. Maybe I'm on the thrust of that. She dreamed she was a train draped in robin's egg lace. She couldn't keep still in one place. She dreamed she was the only train running on the 4th of July, filled with whipped cream to burst and streamers to fly. She dreamed she was a train running past the impound lot, and after every platform on the route, she'd whisper, I still love Phil. And we all really do. To know him is to love him. 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 And to know him through his heart is the most profound way possible to know him. She was sad when they closed the gates at night. She dreamed she was a train filled with die-cast metal engines and cowboy hats, ordered by the civil rights workers' favorite daughter. She dreamed she was a train and her earrings were flashing orange lights. She waved hello to the one car that she'd stopped at the tiny suburban crossing, a train to get the tracks loose and rattling. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles talking over each other at her grandma's birthday. Rattling tracks reminds her of those uncles and aunts, people with names like Buster and Dez, arguing trying desperately to keep their dentures stuck in place, keep their dentures in, making very loud sounds while they argue about baseball scores, tax reports, and how much it cost to buy grapes this month and what routes they took to get to this fucking place. All talking loudly over each other at her grandma's birthday. 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 Birthday! It's a shame when you pull up the books you want to read, but you pulled up like the wrong ones. Because I've done a lot of them, and sometimes I misremember where I put things, and I feel foolish. This is called Life Isn't Hard. Mark Porter committed suicide on Sunday. He had converted to Islam to get married. He had lost his largest commission. His middle name was Allen. He converted to Islam even though he himself was an atheist who had been raised Catholic. His wife wanted to divorce him anyway because he hadn't converted to the faith properly. And then he lost his largest commission. And then that was the end of his life. When he was alive, I thought he was a doofus with a mustache. I had absolutely no idea about what his interior life consisted of until after he was dead. Through the center of the branch to the worm at the root, this paper dust was made for you, you being me. Degrees falling, making exhaust more impressive than it seems. Bark peeled down the bare tree, paintings dripping from their frame, teeth a white yogurt on Ash Wednesday. Call this stranger, 'cause the wheel is waiting for you. There's lice in the cabinet, chewing through to the roof. The dog barks at 6:10 a.m. Your shrieking wakes up 4. Your persuasion has no outlet. Your table and chairs are forgotten. The roof is getting weaker at the office. The copier is out of toner until Thursday. Stay with me! Stay with me! Stay! Finger paintings in the attic, nonsensical shapes with misspelled words. Local men are firing blanks while they leave for work. Are they still speaking English? They breathe very loud. Glaciers are roaring, the flash pots in your mind. No point is loaded, body hair grown. You become convinced everyone wants you to win. I spent the day in a monotone mood, watching commercials, watching Anita Bryant with 4 crew-cut men in 1965, and a cola-fueled Christian clothes-on Hitler Youth orgy of the future, a future where only animals are nutritious and crabgrass causes cancer. Underneath it, it is plain. Underneath it is reasonably explained. Underneath it is yes and no. Underneath it is wave and beat. This is called Swim to the Center. When I was offensive, outside the way, weak without a mission, never gaining strength. Why not? Yes, the river slithers, the confession pathetic, center of the solid rock, punched clear through. Only a human with a circuit, a sky with breath. The order must be ignored. Action in full action. I'm ready. Are you going to swim to the center or waste your time in space? Do you know your energy lasts forever, or are you convinced that you should be stuck in one place? So what are you going to do? Protect your ego and hide in some group? We're free and so are you, and you better understand that, because if not, we're all through. Are you going to swim to the center or choose not to act? Are you going to deny and try and feel better, or create a load of crap that no one gets? So what are you going to do? Lie behind shame, slogans, flags, and fake facts? We're here, and so are you, and you better understand that, because if you don't, we are all through. What I see is invisible. We see together. What I feel is immeasurable. We feel together. What we make is untouchable. It's for the future. What we are is infinite. It's in the universe. Remember, wind is everywhere. Remember to smile at the air. Remember, you build each star. Remember to smile in the dark. By the way, that ending was influenced by Yoko Ono. She's kind of the woman of the day. She recently turned 87. If John Lennon hadn't been murdered by a born-again Christian fucking lunatic, he would be 80 something. He'd be turning 81 this year. This is called Moonlight in a Dirty Teabag. This is from Political Glitter in 97. I spend my time in theaters. When I get home at night, the plasma in my blood always pounds too fast, and the broken overhead lights can predict what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah, the night shows off your real feelings. The streets are chipped and cornered. There's a punk rock kid with black-lit spiked hair and a lonely mechanic who tries to hug his customers, or something like that. The cops always fly past, oblivious to it all. We happened to hook up by chance. She was snake dancing through some guy's shirt. Our conversation had something to do with the Renaissance, but to be honest, I can hardly remember. So instead we went back to her place. Her skin turned the color of a Dalmatian, and she laughed at me when I started talking too much as a response. There were whistling monks in the corner wearing crowns and jewels, and I tried to play the straight man amongst all this cacophony. She took my hand and told me that it was all right, and when we got on board the satellite, she sang folk songs all the way to Mars. She took my hand and promised me that it was all right, and when we got on board the satellite, she sang folk songs all the way to Mars. This is, I've read this one many times. This is, on the surface, it is about the military-industrial complex, but it is, of course, not directly, at least, about the military-industrial complex. What this does is it uses one form of abuse of power to speak about another form of an abuse of power. And you can see parallels in the real world of this all the time. And this is, of course, the question that all of us have to answer at some point, someday, perhaps. This is called, Would You Sell the Relics? The general that only cares about tomorrow also expects everyone to echo the same expression, and when the general can no longer see the power of their influence, they try and exert control over any small circumstances under their command. While the brigadier general worries to no one if they need a transfusion, the colonel, who's concerned that not enough people's fingerprints matches theirs, requires a warning on the front page of each report, along with a summary cut together by a subordinate in a matter of minutes, so they don't have to waste any energy generating any contradictory thoughts. While the captain enters their coordinates so the location is known and updated every moment, which leaves the captain free to make discoveries like the wheel or gravity, and then sell their findings to the executives or campaign staff of their choice, urged by a strong sense of benevolence, a tribute to charity as a force. And the first lieutenant's unmatched love of history is proven by the pictures of their parents taken with Goebbels in Brazil in the 70s. And the second lieutenant's jealousy shows and grouses to one, "That's not Goebbels, it's clear that it's Martin Bormann." The sergeant major that reset the standards of esprit de corps doesn't know the panic they'll feel a few short years later when they are urged out of the way, or that they'll become stiff with resentment and resolute in their calls for punishment, and institute measures to monitor how the company behaves, while the staff sergeant writes on a photo of themselves, "The future belongs to you," and daydreams about collecting the remaining virginities from the sorority house down the road, and they already have the names, ages, and weights in a frequently updated database. Then the staff staff sergeant complains about commercials before content. The chief warrant officer who breaks ranks to research the order the alphabet was created in gets rueful about seeing themselves age and attending charity events, funerals, and hospital visits, seeing their faces in the mirror more washed out than before, wondering as they write their commencement address, who will even be paying attention in the audience, drinking from puddles, seeing what the sky says, not being able to read handwriting. And to the private, it's all an eye roll. And all so boring and shallow to see another round of legacy shut out by an offhand remark. The private doesn't ask any of the officers where they should start. What's the matter where rebellion is kitsch and trauma is Walmart? The specialist greets the private. They each think that the other is a dilettante, and later the specialist considers, what's the matter where you have 1,000 followers and not a dozen supporters? Would you sell the Relics? Oops. Moving too quick for my own good. This is one I wrote many years ago. I wrote this when I was 17. Put it out a few years later when I was, 19, 18? Somewhere in there. The soundscapes fly from dusk, sterility restricted to their thoughts, bleak as the day they were born. The concrete is in a state of flux, and the forest lies under a soiled blanket of lucid dreams. Pale-faced disintegration in the awestruck, penniless geometric cluster, and its meaningless tradition. For some quiet, they'd drink shattered glass. For some peace, they'd murder a stillborn baby. Savages behind closed doors, but who commits treason and defines what's pure? With precise rhythms and the headache medicine, memories seep through like blood under a fingernail. We never know when it's finished. The wave just rides. Preface to manifest slavery, entire chapters to write, planets of aliens to conceive. We never know when it's finished. The wave just rides. And it does. Infinitely. This is from Trace the Signal. Came out at the end of 2003. It's a long, arduous process making this book. I won't talk about it now. Someday I will, because it's sort of an interesting story. But now is not the time for that shit. This is Slow Boat to China. The razor skin fell on the seat. The roof had been gouged out by a key. The exits were guarded. A few numbers were written down, all typed out in a foreign language, all the product of inflation. The casino's slot machines paid out with surf music in a 20-minute ring. The plumber knocked on the last room of the far wing and was tipped with uneaten meat. I was alone in a hotel room, and there was... When I say I was alone, not only was I alone in the room, I was alone in the entire wing of the hotel. And on a Friday night around, let's say, 8 or 9 o'clock, I had ordered room service, and there was a knock at the door. So it was a suite. It was a 2-level room. And while I was, I fly down the stairs expecting my dinner to get wheeled in, and just as I'm opening the door, I can see as the door is open a crack. It's a man in a hideous sport coat with white hair neatly combed, and he goes, and as he sees the door opening, he says, "Get ready for Mr. Magic." And I said to him, "I think he got the wrong room, Mr. Magic." And he looked horrified and stared at his shoes and then fucking bolted. And I wonder if Mr. Magic ever got to play his trick that night. I keep trying to leave, but I only get more inside. I made it out of the garage only to be stuck behind a foreigner with $1,000 hubcaps on a $50 car. A girl climbed up the mic, and before she got numb, asked them how they could stand the climate. She was from California, never was snowed on, didn't get stopped by trains. 25 miles to 20 miles to 15 miles to 10 miles to 5 miles to 3 miles to 2 miles, then down to 1, ranging from dour to catatonic to irate. Can't tell a building from a train. Everyone drives through except for me, though. I stopped the frame. I I took the wrong exit driving into the marching band display and wrote my senator complaining to his face, and he wrote back saying, "Yes, sir, it's about time we did things your way. Everybody's acting like an altar boy, looking for a lampshade to make straight, some Sunday spending money, a free robe, a thimble out of the river because they got the chance to make their case. Trees grow faster in the city according to the study. The nutrients depleted my body. No electricity is going to open that door. Ice is slow and not enough to keep my attention. My attention. Everybody acting like a fucking altar boy, dragging their disagreements in the streets, stopped, slow and coy, using their vestments for sheets. A few quick turns and pleas for a reward, but the holding cell is empty and I don't choose to open it today. I paid to replace the battery and canceled my appointments. The dentist charged me a late fee. The neighbor watched his lawn instead of TV. And here's the moral of the story. I put my dinner in a glass and filled it with water, drank half and left the rest. I threw in some safety pins to see how fast they'd rust, and after 6 months, there were still no results. Perfect. How are we doing there? Good. All right. This is we're somewhat in the home stretch. So this is called White Cello. This is I shouldn't say this, but I will. Do you know that Prince song, Ingrid Chavez? They did together. I think it's actually her song, The Line. This is sort of inspired by that, but I don't want Ingrid Chavez to come after me. Take the white envelope next to your right hand. Give it to me. Talk to me. I'm in the open window. I'm not in time, but I've got your watch, and I need to learn to play this white cello. Scratch the surface. I'm on the shore with a can of sugar. It's never bitter. I'd really rather be playing, though, because I like the white strings and the white bow. That's not her. That's her, was the simplest thing you said today. I'm still reeling, with no moments except now. You don't possess any microscope, so instead I will take the telescope. I keep trying to be angelic, which isn't easy after getting desensitized with disappointments. Every night eating fresh vegetables with planning. You already know, and then you talk me out of it. You don't have a pistol in your waistcoat. Your teeth aren't flecked with flax seeds. My misjudgments are my own, and most are unknown. But just because I'm a pacifist doesn't mean I'll just let any just dumb motherfucker come and abuse me. And speaking of myself, notice me. I'm standing next to the tree where the guy crashed the stolen car, then got out and ran for it. But I can behave for over 100 days, and I've squandered my efforts and so much goodwill that I sometimes still need to convince myself that I should try to learn to take lessons to play at all. But I'm sure that you want me to, and I know what I can do. And with that, we're not missing anything. We're humming songs through the phone. We're midnight movers. We're holy rollers without a religion. We're not, Jesus. And don't be the guy on the bike in the right lane racing for his life against the rush hour traffic in the morning. I know you are, and you know that I care, and I feel like I'm Clark Kent, all dressed up in primary colors, and I just haven't taken off my glasses yet. She said to me, as long as it's not evil. And I said to her, I cannot be evil, certainly not right now, but it's the rising sun, it's the hard-boiled egg, it's basil, it's a blue charm. I just want to play the white cello. I just want to sit in a circle and think about it some more. So are we going to wrap this up, or are we going to test people's patience? No. I'm thinking out loud. It's warm communication going on. So that's what I'm talking about. So instead, we're going to change some channels. Quarters, nickels, and dimes, and all sunbathers must be wearing a blue suit. Go to Swanson, cut off your Swanson. It'll be like a reverse safari where they put lions, cheetahs, and tigers in a truck and drive them around and showing people shopping and walking down the street or pumping gas. It'll be the apex of manifestation. It won't be in the Bible, but it will be like the Bible. Or it'll be a suburban safari where some guy named Greg gives you a little pith helmet and plastic binoculars and you wait under his kitchen table for the cat to use the litter box. But why does it gotta be white? Never heard from before. Advertising space available. Clean, clear water. And of course, the tastiest tomatoes. And with that, we will move into our final piece of the night. Don't you hate fucking technical nonsense? You try so hard to do good work and just get screwed around with. Now, rubber buttons. It needs to become something. Let's go! My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me as much as I love to see a basket of swimming snowflakes. My shoelaces are undone, so I throw them next to a trunk full of styrofoam tongues, and the person who brought them yells, "Thank you!" The first person in the castle has the obvious advantage if they wish to scrape their fingernails against century-old windows. They can concentrate vacantly while being unfailingly polite and insisting their hands are made of the same sand as found outside on the beach. They know there is no joy in failure for their friends, and the fun in restoration happens once the work is done. The second person in the castle has obvious ease with boldly seizing treasure only they can see through a fizzing camera lens. They can research quietly while having no qualms about their ambition outstripping their abilities in assessing gaudy antiques. They know there is no lemon rich enough in sourness to let their taste get challenged into swallowing insects in soiled tents. The third person in the castle has the obvious edge when turning their profile to face the East End in hopes of repairing a table leg. They can dutifully saw and sweep the dust into the bin until the bell sounds for them to begin slicing vegetables in the kitchen. They know there is no creek deep enough to keep them from molding jellies into a series of perfectly semi-translucent wedges. I want brass buttons for my cousin. Because I could not count for cufflinks, they counted for me. Because I could not look for light bulbs, they looked for me. Because I could not dance for diamonds, they danced for me. They realized the chateau has the clear advantage as the place to evaluate flashy antiques. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make the rubber buttons to wear for myself. While I sew, I look at the library and remember each of my most memorable finds. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make the rubber buttons I wear on my jacket. I buy the materials from the tan-toothed man who sold my mom a gold wishing box. I want brass buttons for my cousin because when I preach with the collar, it preaches with me. I want brass buttons for my cousin because when I move with the minnows, they move with me. They realize the chateau has the clear advantage when you're evaluating flashy antiques. Let's go! And it's always fucking alright. My shoelaces are undone, so I only walk sideways and photograph a plump purple terracotta planter with a flag with a price tag sticking out of it, though it's hard to know. My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me as much as I love wearing an apricot ascot while hearing stories about Korean camping sites. The first person in the tower can brighten their senses by energetically exchanging sunglasses and hairstyles once safely ensconced at the top. They can cheerfully sing along with anything, though they prefer Caruso and ragtime to songs they don't know. There is usually a fixed point in the distance for them to focus on things such as a helicopter or hawk taking off shortly after dawn. The second person in the tower can loudly shout, "How I love my girl!" which echoes back so overwhelmingly they can think that they're in a private booth. They can detect the scent of her shampoo in the wind and look down and see her looking up and running towards them. There is normally an iron staircase nailed in 40 years ago, which serves as the one modern addition to the edifice. The third person in the tower can tell endless jokes over dinner about the rabbits they saw nipping chocolate from their mother's open purses. They can wear a lei around their necks, which contrasts sharply with their pinstripe sport coat and tartan flat cap. There is always a sauna where they can fall asleep underneath a slippery painting of their father all dressed up as a captain. My shoelaces are undone. They lay underneath the warmth of the sun. This is a true depiction, recited with excellent diction. Let's go. Now I recall other memories. From walking around the castle, the humidity kept at bay, clouds letting loose only hints of rain, and vines intertwining across each other, and each new flower that blooms, another gift for the dozens of bees in love with the newness of June. It's all on top of my eyes. 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 All on top of my eyes, 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 all on top of my eyes. They say for every boy and girl there's just one love in this whole world, and I know I've found mine. The heavenly touch of your embrace tells me no one could take your place ever in my heart. Young love, first love, fell with true devotion. Young love, our love we share with deep emotion. Just one kiss from your sweet lips will tell me that your love is real. I can feel that it's true. We will vow to one another there will never be another love for you or for me. Young love, first love, fell with true devotion. Young love, our we share with deep emotion. All on top of my eyes, the curious sage in an orange and brown dashiki, standing before a statue of the stripped Christ, arms open and hovering. All on top of my eyes, lithium batteries in between her teeth. She holds a screwdriver dipped in green paint as she walks over underground cables. All on top of my eyes, in between her toes, she staves off headaches with gallons of water and sleeping when she can. All on top of my eyes, the swells of excitement are just one continued drone. Close concert of ideas, stretching fingers. You did a great job today, devoted, seriously. All on top of my eyes. One wonder. One today. All right. And that, folks, is another exciting edition of the Quarantine Stream. We hope that you've enjoyed it. By the grace of God, we will be back next week. If we're not, I don't know, if I don't get in trouble for posting something that is not offensive in the fucking slightest, but we'll see. We will see. Much stupider things have happened, haven't they? All right. Let us one more time play the Quarantine Stream theme. Life is but a dream in the quarantine stream. Beautiful. All right, folks. Until next week. Like I said, by the grace of God, we will be back next week. Who knows? Until then, though, stay safe, stay smart, and stay free, because you already are. Yes. Hopefully you're all getting vaccinated and all that. Until then, hope you're double masking. Ran into a guy the other day who made fun of the fact that I was double masking. And I thought, well, you know, I'm not going to say anything insulting to you, sir. But, however, all right. Like I said, by the grace of God, so hopefully we will. We'll see. We shall see. But until then, goodbye, everyone. Goodbye. God bless. Goodbye.